Greetings guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. Today I sat down to film a video about our good friend at the Daily Wire, Brett Cooper, because she makes a lot of videos and she has a lot of content that I have not sat down and watched for a while. And I actually had a couple videos in mind that I wanted to talk to you about. But when I went to her channel to go find said videos, I stumbled upon one called Babygirl is the New Nickname for Men. And I couldn't just scroll past that because I feel like having fun today. We've talked about a lot of more serious topics recently, and we haven't had like fun here for a while, you know? So I thought that we'd do that. I thought that we would watch this video of her not understanding what baby girl means and getting like mad and upset over the fact that we leftist liberals like to call men baby girl, because that just sounds like a good time. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna watch this video and we're just gonna have a laugh, and I'm gonna be here in defense of baby girl men because you can't take my baby girl men away from me. Before we get into it, I would like to say a massive thank you to today's patron of the day, Theo. I appreciate you and your support so much, so thank you so much for joining. If anyone else would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/savvycat. I appreciate it greatly. Yeah, let's get into the video. Let's see what she has to say.
There's a large sect of mostly American women who believe that masculinity is toxic and they prefer soft boys or women. Let's be real, they might be lesbians. But now we have a new term for this type of modern, endearing, non-toxic man. They are baby girl boys.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And apparently, chicks dig them.
So real. Baby girl men superiority.
I have heard this baby girl term being thrown around for months now, specifically on TikTok, and girls online will comment and they'll say, oh, he is so baby girl. I love him. Like, that is how it is used in a sentence. And for us serious lexicologists, I turn to Urban Dictionary for a more full explanation. Baby girl. Word used to describe a cute, submissive man that exudes the essence of being fertile.
That is such a hilarious definition. I feel like with the term baby girl, it's like incredibly difficult to give a meaning and to describe. I personally just think it's vibes, and I can't explain the vibe. It's just vibes. That, I suppose, is one definition of it, but it's not a definition I personally would use.
And then another definition is baby girl, a term used towards grown fictional men who have the fandom in a loving chokehold. And apparently, they do have women in a chokehold, at least according to the New York Post, which is where I first saw this. They tweeted out, women are loving men who embrace baby girl vibe and ditch toxic masculinity. Because are you really sure? Because I think a lot of people in the comment section would disagree. One person commented and said, no, a few woke women and a lot of fake women who are extremely vocal are into it. That's it. The majority of women want their men to be masculine.
But you see, there is still an increase in women who are interested in feminine men and men who exude baby girl. So they aren't lying. Just because a majority are not into that doesn't mean there isn't a big increase in that. If you are not into feminine men, that's fine. You don't have to be. A majority of men aren't baby girl. So you've still got the majority there, all right? Like, you don't have to be interested in every man and every man's vibes and qualities. Like, you don't have to be. This is where we always end up all the time, is that it's always like us being like, I like this type of man. I like when men are feminine. I like when people are this. And conservatives are like, yeah, but I don't, so I don't think anyone is allowed to be like that. No one is forcing anything on anybody. It's just such massive projection of anytime we say anything is okay, they read it as us trying to make everything into that, because that's how they do things. They think everyone needs to be one particular way. So whenever we say we like something, they read it as what they mean when they like something. And that is that we think the entire world should be like that. We like individuality. We appreciate that everyone is different. I don't think everyone should be exactly the same. I think that everyone should just be who they are and exist how they want to. I'm not forcing anything on anyone. No one is forcing anything on anyone except you. You don't have to like it. You just have to accept it. That's like the general rule of everything. That just go through life like that. You don't have to like it. You just have to accept and respect it.
This girl had an emotional, guttural response to Jacob Elordi talking about being a baby girl on SNL.
Right, he is so baby girl.
I know, that's what I said. He's so baby girl.
Me, I'm a baby girl.
Please!
She's screaming because she wants him so badly and because she wants to be there. The comments were wild. It was like, oh my God, I'm feral. Oh my God, I want him. It's literally what women in TikTok comment sections are saying.
It is so unbelievably funny to me how seriously she is taking this. It's so funny that you can watch these videos and see these reactions and these comments and think that we're not just having a good time. It must be so sad and boring to live in a world where you don't just constantly have fun. We're just having a good time. It's literally just some lighthearted fun, and people screaming over things like this, it's just a joke, okay? And no one is having that as like a legit actual reaction. She is not actually like freaking out in that sense. It's like losing my mind, but it's like hyperbole, you know? Like, have you never been hyperbolic before? Have you never just done things because it's funny and it's fun? I don't quite know how to express fun to you. I will say things like screaming, crying, throwing up a lot, but I'm not usually actually screaming, crying, and throwing up. It's just kind of a figure of speech. And that's kind of what she just did. You get it? You know?
Now, obviously, we have to read the New York Post article because there are some gems in here. First of all, they give their own definition of baby girl, and it completely tops the Urban Dictionary one. They wrote, a man who is baby girl comes across as sweet, charming, a bit bashful, and seemingly in touch with their feminine side, ready to talk about their feelings or carry a purse to brunch at any point. It's exactly what women want, and what men want to become, the antithesis of toxic macho masculinity.
I am truly obsessed with the amount of people who are trying to give a definition to baby girl when there is no way to define it. That's what's beautiful about it, is. It just exists, and it's just a vibe. And like, you're either baby girl or you're not. And that's kind of it.
Quote, traditionally, highlighting feminine qualities in men has been a put down, but this doesn't seem to be the case with baby girl, which almost has a celebratory quality. I'm sorry, ma'am, but you do not speak for all of us. New York Post also argued that women today are outpacing men in graduating from college and buying homes. They're out-earning men in several states and freezing their eggs to take the pressure off of rushing into parenthood. Quote, women are fiercely independent. Women don't need men. So I think that women have priorities that are better for them. It used to be that the connotation of masculine was that you can be a tough guy, a protector physically. And I think that the concept of like an emotional protector being there for you is something that's become more important than just someone's physical presence.
I know I just said this, but it is incredibly funny to me that people take just fun and then like try to make sense of it and put it into like words and try to make it seem academic and like logical and like big and meaningful when it's not. It's just sometimes we just like to have fun. Sometimes things aren't serious. Like, yes, we can celebrate femininity within men. Yes, that is something that we like. Seeing men not needing to prove their masculinity is something that is appreciated and something that we like. There's something that is so lovely and attractive about soft men. There is something that a lot of us are drawn to about soft men. And sure, maybe it has to do with all these things about like being independent and having all of this and not needing a man, etc., etc. But like, I'm not thinking any of that. Like, none of that is in my mind when I am watching the hotter anti-fragile fan cam and going, baby girl, love of my life. You know, like... It's just a term that has developed and is used lightheartedly, and I would imagine it came out of fandoms. Like, I started seeing it the most in K-pop stuff, but the Urban Dictionary earlier mentioned like fictional characters, so it might have started with that, or it could have started somewhere else. But those are the sort of areas I saw it first, and then it's kind of spread a little bit further. It's all just said in good faith and good fun. And it's so funny to see people take it so seriously. I don't think there is any intellectual sort of explanation for it. And I don't know why we're having think pieces written about just some internet terminology and something that we're all having fun together with and just using to express something about a specific type of man. I don't know. It's just fascinating to me.
But women, it is in your best interest for men to be masculine. It works out for both of us. It's kind of the way the sexes were supposed to be.
I don't think it really does work out in my best interest for a man to be masculine. Like, I don't think that's a necessary requirement for someone to be. I am more interested in men who are more feminine. I have no problem with masculinity, and there are some masculine traits that are appealing. However, I do not seek out very masculine men. I don't seek out men with heavy masculine energy and vibes, you know? Like, I like the baby girl vibes. I like men who are feminine and who are emotional and who I can relate to in a lot of ways. And I think that, like, saying that if you aren't masculine, you can't offer protection or be a good partner is just completely just the biggest load of shit ever. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, you can be feminine and also strong. There's a whole subgenre of like muscle baby girls where you can be fucking buff as fuck and still baby girl. You can be masculine and still baby girl. You can be both strong and feminine. And also, I don't need protection. I am fully capable of being my own person and protecting myself. I don't want to rely on someone else to keep me safe. Like, that's not a position I want to be in. Other women and other people in general can also help me feel protected. I need to be in a relationship that is like emotionally safe and compassionate in order to feel safe. And I can't have that with someone who is not in touch with their emotions. I can't be in a relationship with someone who is super masculine and isn't going to open up and like be able to talk and relate to me. Like, that's not going to work as a relationship. That's not the type of thing that I and many other people desire. And going from a minute ago being like, you don't speak for all women, you don't speak for us, how dare you write an article about how women like baby girls, you don't speak for all of us, and then turning around and going, women like masculine men, this is all a load of bullshit, all women want is a man to protect them. Like, you don't speak for all women, Brett. You don't have to be interested in feminine men. You do not have to date a feminine man. But men are allowed to be feminine. You don't have to be interested in them. That's totally fine. Men are allowed to be feminine. Men are allowed to be masculine. You can be interested in whoever you want to be interested in. Masculinity is fine. I don't have a problem with masculinity. The problem is when they take masculinity too far and become aggressive. That's when it becomes toxic. And you don't like toxic masculinity either. You just refuse to acknowledge what that actually is. Masculinity itself is not toxic. It just has the potential to be toxic. It's really not that difficult to figure out. Go ahead, date your masculine men. I don't give a fuck. But leave my baby girls alone, okay? Leave them alone. They didn't do shit.
I read that little blurb and I was just thinking, man, this is going to make men feel so great. You know, you don't need them. You don't necessarily want them. But if you do want them, it's going to be in a very specific female-centric way. Got it.
You mean how men want women in a very male-centric way? Like, they have their pretty solid ideas of what they want in a woman as well. Saying that this only goes one way. Like, women are allowed preferences, just as men are allowed preferences. We're all allowed our own preferences and allowed to live our lives in whatever way we want. And I'm going to want to date someone and be in a relationship with someone who fits with my lifestyle and my desires, and I expect the same the other way around. I want to be with someone who I'm compatible with. It's not female centric, it's like me centric, but I expect my partner to also be them centric in the sense that like we should both have our own best interest in mind as well as each other's. You know? Like that's kind of how relationships work.
Do not ever tell me that we live in a patriarchy ever again. This is a matriarchy through and through. Women control it all. Women are dominating in almost every category. They control when sexual encounters happen.
Yeah, okay, women are controlling when sexual encounters happen. I think that that's a good thing. I mean, as long as it is consensual both ways, you know what I mean? Like, is this implying that women have the right to say no? And like will only have sex when they want to? Because I think that's a good thing. If women are deciding when they do and don't want to have sex, that's actually a positive. If you see that as a negative, that's that is a decision that both parties need to make. No one should be having sex if they don't want to be, and that works either way. It shouldn't always be the woman's decision in the sense that like they shouldn't decide if they're trying to decide with a man who doesn't want to. Like that doesn't work. That is not okay. However, if you're referring to the fact that women are allowed to say no, that's actually a good thing, Brett. You should be really happy for that.
They're freezing their own damn eggs. They hate men. That's a matriarchy.
Okay, so women are in control of everything because they're deciding when they do and don't want to have sex. And they're freezing their eggs. And they hate men. So that means it's a matriarchy. Those three things, that's what qualifies a matriarchy, nothing else. It's not about the fact that a majority of people in power are men. It's not about the fact that a majority of billionaires are men. It's not about the fact that 1 in 3 women are sexually abused at some point in their life. It's not about the fact that 1 in 3 women will be in an abusive relationship at some point. It's not about the fact that women are still less likely to be hired or get promotions or get equal pay. Like, none of that matters. It's about the fact that we only have sex when we want to, and we can freeze our eggs. So obviously we run the world. What? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. What has freezing your eggs got to do with anything as well? Like, I'm sorry, I'm taking control of my own fertility? Why is that a problem? What? Explain that one to me, please.
They also brought up how Gen Z is very interested in bending gender norms, so all of this is in line with them, yada, yada, yada. They wrote, about 31% of American men have actively changed their behavior to become more vulnerable and open with the people that they are dating, according to Bubble's 2024 dating reports. Quote, men are now more comfortable showing who they are emotionally, their authentic selves, and letting their personalities shine through instead of putting up barriers and worrying about being too emotionally expressive. And for a quarter of men, 25% globally, this newfound openness has had a positive impact on their emotional state.
I don't understand what the problem is here. I'm not seeing the problem here at all. I will listen to what she has to say, but how is men being in touch with their emotions and allowing themselves to be completely honest and vulnerable with a partner a negative? In what way is that at all negative?
And this is where I really have a problem with the trend, because men being comfortable expressing their emotions and communicating with their partners should not be considered a baby girl vibe or effeminate in the slightest. Like, that is simply a healthy, normal thing to do, and it should not take away from one's masculinity.
Okay, so yeah, that's correct. I don't get her. Like, you're right, Brett. I actually very much agree with you here. That should not be considered feminine. That should not be considered something that is inherently a feminine thing to do. That should not correlate to being called baby girl or anything like that. That is just a normal, healthy thing for people to do. That's what a relationship should be. You are completely correct. However, the thing is that a lot of people on your side of the political spectrum do not think that and do not agree with that. Thus, I preemptively judged what you were going to say here, because there are so many like conservative right-wing people who don't think men should show emotion, and that is what toxic masculinity is. It's when you bottle up your emotions and refuse to let yourself feel or show any emotion other than like anger. And it leaves people being very apathetic, it leaves people being very angry, and it puts a lot of people in terrible situations because these men aren't allowed to feel anything or show any emotion out of fear of being seen as emasculine. But you are right, Brett. Sharing your emotions and being vulnerable does not take away from being masculine at all. You can be the most masculine man ever and still be vulnerable and share your emotions and have that connection with your partner. That is what you should do. That is what is encouraged, and that is what is a healthy relationship. You are correct. And I don't think that that should assign you the label of feminine or baby girl or anything like that. I agree. I also don't like this article that you're talking about. I think it takes the whole thing too seriously and puts a lot of words under this word that is effectively just a silly, lighthearted thing. It's not necessary. This article doesn't have to exist. I just, in general, find Brett a really interesting person. I think she was an absolutely perfect hire for the Daily Wire because she's my age. I believe she's a year younger than me. And it's so interesting because, like, I've had people tell me before that she's like the conservative version of me, which is so funny because, like, I do get it. And I watch her videos and I listen to her speak, and then sometimes she says stuff like this and I'm like, yes, I agree with you. There's a lot of things that we agree on, and there's a lot of crossover points that, like, she completely understands and she gets and she thinks and feels. And I just find it so interesting that because of who she is around and who is feeding her this information and where she is looking and what she is looking at, it really shapes the way she views the left and views us and thinks that we are somehow disagreeing with these points that she has. She is just, like, so on that line, and I don't even think she realizes it. If she was around different people, like if she was around like Gen Z leftists a lot, like if she went to a university and was in like a small class of a lot of like Gen Z leftists, whatever, I would be really interested to know what her sort of like views would be and what would change and what would be the same. And it's just fascinating to me because she reminds me of people that I went to uni with, and I think that if I went to uni with her, like, we would have been friends. And that's really fascinating to me to think about because in my class, most of my class were like Christian conservatives, and like, although I've distanced myself from them now, it's just really interesting to me that I do think that we would have been friends. And I disagree with a lot of what she has to say now, and I wouldn't be friends with her now because, like, we fundamentally disagree on very important things. But I am curious to know what would have happened if she was around different people and if she looked further at this information and what people are saying and what the left actually believes versus what a lot of the media sort of perpetuates us to believe, and a lot of the, like, extreme TikToks and things that she is being sent and seeing. And, like, if she looks past it and sees the, like, actual fun and the humor and actually listens to the points that we have and not just what she is told we are saying, it'd be really interesting. You're saying what we all think here, Brett. What the left believes is that having emotions and being in touch with that does not make you any less of a man. It doesn't make you any less masculine. That is what we are saying. That is what we are encouraging. It is the conservatives that are saying that that is true. It is the conservatives that are saying if you cry, you aren't a man. It is the conservatives that are saying you can't have emotions because that's masculine. You have to be strong and you have to be a provider and you have to look after your wife. You aren't allowed to be vulnerable. That's not us. That's you.
In order to be a good boyfriend, a good husband, a good son, brother, father, friend, you do have to be able to communicate and express your feelings and what you need. And then, of course, take action to address whatever the problem or situation might be.
She's saying good things. She's saying many, many good things. True. All of that is true. I absolutely agree. And we all need to talk about this on every side. Everyone needs to hold this belief and to share this and to talk about it. Communication is so important. Emotions are so important. Emotional availability is so important. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to ask for what you need. You have to be able to share and express yourself and be honest. And you have to be able to help yourself and be willing to help yourself and also ask for support when you need it. You are completely correct.
Telling men that they are so baby girl when they are just open with their emotions is not going to help or empower the vast majority of Western men. Like, our society has spent years now telling men to be open and vulnerable and express themselves, and then the moment they start doing that, we turn around and say, that's effeminate. You're so baby girl. Do you not see how ridiculous that is?
Okay, well, you know what? With the information she was given there at the end, making that jump and being like, calling men baby girl just for expressing their emotions isn't helpful. You're right. That's not where the term is used and why the term is used. I don't think it's a put down. I don't think we should be viewing it as a put down. Being called feminine or baby girl or whatever should not be interpreted as a put down. Being associated with women should not be interpreted as like a negative thing. And if you interpret that as a negative thing, you need to work on that and understand that it isn't. And it is toxic masculinity getting in the way of you being able to accept that you may be more feminine. However, if you're only being called feminine because you have emotions, that is a problem, because it is then enforcing that you can't be masculine and have emotion. It's a whole thing. It's a whole cycle. I think ultimately, we need to stop intellectualizing internet slang, because sometimes it does not need to be intellectualized. And I think we need to stop taking things so seriously all the time, you know? Let men have emotions. And also, baby girl is about vibes, not about expressing yourself. And I've not seen anyone ever use baby girl as just after someone expresses themselves. That's not a way I've ever seen that used, but I'll give it to you. If that is how people are using it, then yeah, that's a little bit of a problem, because that's not what it's meant to be. Anyway, this took a little bit of a turn, and I didn't expect it to end up where it did. But I also would like to add, though, that I promise you, baby girl is not exclusively used for Western men. As I said, a majority of the time I've seen baby girl used, it is within the K-pop community. It's hundreds of men every day I see being called baby girl. I call men baby girl every single day. It's just used affectionately. Weird one, finishing on agreeing with Brett Cooper for like a solid 2 minutes. That's not how I expected this to go, but you know, here we are. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. A little bit of silly fun, but also had some good conversations. So I think that's a win. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. A massive thank you to my Sprout and Above patrons, whose names are up on the screen right now. And a huge thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons: Bobby, Josh, Mandy, Ikazel, Jessica, Eldo, Danielle, Raven, Elias, Chris, Samuel, and Knitting Menace. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining. If anyone else would like to become a patron, you go to patreon.com/savvycat. Click the top link in the description. For as little as £1 a month, you get my videos a day early. And then for £3 and up, you get things such as outtakes, bonus mini podcasts, live streams, vlogs, and more. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, The Queer Kiwi, and Twitter, That Queer Kiwi. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah.
When you close your eyes.